Let's see if we're green. If YouTube can receive, thank you. There it is. Will it show up on that end? Okay, this is different. This is a little bit of a rebrand, and at the same time, it's not that different. Some people are going to be listening to this after the fact. Some people are going to be listening to this live. So I'm just going to start talking, start rambling, and you are the cast now. Okay, we're gonna have people on this show later, but for today it's just me, and you guys are the guests. You guys will dictate the direction of the show, but I can kick it off. So first of all, welcome back to the Taylosive Talks podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is, yes, a bit of a rebrand because I realized that with my new schedule, I've been doing a lot of the random Q&A live streams, and I enjoy them. You guys ask interesting questions. We get into deep subjects. We get into deep topics. And I thought it would be fun to just officially brand this instead of just saying random Q&A and the date. Instead, we're just going to treat this like it's a podcast. Sort of like the Talos of Tech Twitch streams, which, I do live. I interact with you guys. And then I upload the audio to Spotify, iTunes, and you can listen to it after the fact if you want to. So we're basically using that same footprint for the Talks podcast now because me and my wife are very busy working on I Love Louise and Talos of TV and that kind of thing. So the old Talks podcast of me and her interacting live or just us acting off the air, I don't really see a way to bring that back, but this I can do on my time while my wife is working. So that's why we're calling this one Going Solo, because yes, I'll be the sole host for now. I mean, this could change. We could have more people on. We could have more guests on as time goes on. But I just figured it'd make more sense to rebrand it officially because we hadn't done the Talks podcast in a while. And I also wanted to upload these to iTunes and Spotify anyway in a podcast format. And it didn't really make sense to put it in a different album or anything. So yeah, Talks podcast is back, going solo. And nice to see Jay is here, Mike is here, Ben is here. I say we go north. Okay, we're headed north. I would like to just say we all had a part in this. Yes, you did. I think Jay gave me the idea. Jay Pandya was like, this is the Talks podcast. We're just the guests. So yeah, Drew is going Demi Lovato. Yes, I'm going complete Demi Lovato, Mike. I was thinking a lot about this is kind of my kickoff subject. I can bounce some ideas off you guys as we go into it, but I was thinking a lot about what comedy is, because me and my wife just finished this really awesome show. It ended very abruptly. It was called Everybody Hates Chris, and it's the show about the childhood of Chris Rock, who's a stand-up comedian, and I never really listened to his stand-up before. Some of it's pretty good. Some of it has not aged very well. But I like incorporating little bits of comedy into everything I do if possible. There's a few things that are a bit more intentionally serious, but for the most part, the tech videos we aim to, it's very idea based. There's a lot of like, oh, here's what could happen, here's what could happen, here's why that makes sense, or here's why that doesn't make sense. But I like to sprinkle little bits of comedy in there. But what is comedy really? Like how do you I know the Portal definition, Mike. Yeah, I've seen that one before. Tragedy plus time. There's definitely some truth to that, though. Something bad happens, time goes on, it becomes funny. It's only a matter of time before any tragedy really becomes humorous. But like, it's a weird thing because you say something, and that brings joy to someone else, and then they kind of struggle breathing. And that's what laughter is. That's what I'm doing right now. It's like coughing in a way, but you can laugh so hard that you have a hard time breathing. There's a certain jokes or there's certain moments in your life where you're laughing so hard at something that you're like, I can't breathe. It's so funny. Struggles with breathing. Yeah. Just because of how comedic or how hilarious something is. But it's hard to put your finger on, right? Because there's a lot of stand up and there's a lot of jokes that aren't funny, but they are funny to some. Stefan says, in that case, I love it when I can't breathe. Jay says, I don't mind not breathing sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah, that's the key there. Sometimes. But laughter is a weird thing, right? And some people, you could argue it's like they build their whole careers out of that. Some, especially in the stand-up comedy market and people who do comedic TV shows and that kind of thing. They basically derive all joy comes back to laughter, and how hard you can make someone laugh is honestly where a lot of joy stems from. And it's, I think, one of the interesting parts of humanity that kind of makes us human. It makes us different from like typical, just organisms on the earth, just animals and stuff that are like, eat, sleep, survive, find clean drinking water, reproduce, mate, produce offspring, live as long as you can. That's what a lot of, organisms, and that's what a lot of life on earth is. But humans go so far beyond just survival. One of those is music, right? Like it's music is a weird thing because it's just like, oh, these noises, that the airwaves around me have rippled in such a way that I am now enjoying the air being moved in a specific way around me. Because initially sound, how animals would use it to their advantage was just to either like avoid a predator or track down prey, and you would know without having to look or turn around, oh, okay, I can hear that, or no, I can't hear that, or I can track things down in a particular way with my hearing. But then humans take it to a new extent of like uh, sounds that we enjoy listening to for no survival reason other than the fact that it feeds our soul in a way. There's something extra there. In the same way, comedy is kind of like music, because especially in the day of memes and like abrupt or absurd comedy that does not have logical sense, jokes you cannot explain, have become much more common in today's culture. Like how many people laugh or get a kick out of recurring memes, like Bernie Sanders meme is going around like crazy right now. It's like, Bernie Sanders looked funny because he has his mittens on. Now we are going to put Bernie Sanders in as many different locations as possible, and that is now funny. If someone comes into it and doesn't find it funny, they're like, so why is that funny? It's like, I mean, it looks funny. How so? What is funny? Is funny mean having those mittens and sitting in that position? No, but that is funny, I guess. It's not always funny in that template, but for whatever reason, humanity has spontaneously decided that is comedic and that is going to make us laugh now. So we're going to push it in as many different directions as we can and apply it to as many different situations and circumstances. So comedy is very subjective, it's what makes one person laugh won't make another person laugh. And I find that interesting, right? Like it almost feels like animals don't have that as much, like you can make a traditional dog food recipe of like, this hard crunchy stuff, or even wet cat food and things, and they test it internally and they're like, okay, our studies have proven cats and dogs like these combination of flavors, and it doesn't even really matter which cat it is. You probably get some variations, but for the most part, you can take out that wet can of cat food and a cat's going to enjoy it. So that's one thing with like taste. And you could probably even arguably do something like that with humanity and be like, okay, certain amount of fat, certain amount of starch, certain amount of everything it takes to make, what's it called? A human taste something they like. No, this Comcast, don't do this to me now, please. My goodness. Okay, bandwidth is back. Context is super important. You're right, Drew. Hi, Drew. That's a nice name. Yeah, the context of the joke can make someone laugh or not laugh quite a bit. That does give a big impact, and the upbringing as well. What someone was taught growing up can make something funny or not funny. Stefan says, I wonder if you can make a dog laugh, but we just don't know what it sounds like. Maybe when dogs laugh, it sounds so similar to a bark that we don't notice the difference. It's an interesting theory, right? What if dogs are laughing all the time when they pant or whine a certain way, but it doesn't sound like laughing to us, so we don't think it's laughing. Did I say laughing? I meant laughing. It happened to me yesterday when the teacher asked one of the students to do a voice of a modem. A voice of a modem. Huh. Yes, context makes all the difference. You could argue laughter does help survival, as people who smile and laugh more tend to live longer. There might be a tendency there. I don't know if that might be a correlation. I'm not sure if it's a causation. Like, that's an interesting debate, though. Are people who are in a span of life where they are around people they love, have more motivation to live longer because they're enjoying life, versus someone who doesn't laugh very much, who doesn't have a high quality of life? Do they not have as big a motivation to keep living, and therefore don't take care of themselves as much, or save for health care or take care of their body, that type of thing? Sorry, OBS is freaking out so much. I don't know why it does this. It's fine the rest of the day, and then when I go live, they're like, "Oh, okay, bandwidth is gonna do like this." Anyway, Drew, you gone so deep. That's what we do here on Talks. I want to dive into these deep discussions that never have really a place in the tech and EV space, because I do that a lot all day. So this lets us get deeper on this channel. But yeah, if there's a direct, I know there's been studies to show that like happier people or people who laugh live longer, but I'm wondering if it's a direct correlation versus a direct causation. Does that physically, biologically, does laughing and being happy and having a high quality of life, not with your surroundings or even with your food, even if you're not eating healthy, does being a joyous person biologically make you live longer? Like, we're not just talking about external factors. We're just saying, like, it does something with your heart, it does something with your brain. If you laugh more, you live longer. In that extent, telosive is prolonging life, right? That's the comedy we're going for here. I'm just trying to make your life a little bit longer. You're welcome. That makes it a bigger deal. Jay says, let's test it. Who wants to live their happy and who wants to be the miserable? We get two twins at birth. We separate them, right? This is a great start. No, that's terrible. For our great start, two twins, you take one, bring it to a comedic happy family, take one to a miserable family, but you make their incomes the same. Okay, so I'm not saying give one to a rich family, give one to a poor family. I'm saying give them both to middle-class families. Both have equal household income, except one is just naturally depressed and not that happy all the time, and the other one is like overly ecstatic and happy all the time. That would be a fascinating test. And then we just ask them both how they feel when they turn 90. This is a very long test. Stefan says maybe laughing is like a really good exercise for your heart. Okay. Is that how that works? I mean, when you laugh like really, really hard, like you watch a movie that's really funny or a stand-up comedian that really cracks you up, does that raise your heart rate? I know it's like the biological process of laughing is trippy to me. It's like you're exhaling, but staccato. You know what I mean? It's like sharp. It's like there's suddenly a beat to your exhale. And why is it involuntary is the other thing. It's like we don't teach people to laugh. A baby can laugh before it can speak. The other thing that's really interesting is what makes a child laugh, because, none of it was taught. Like, they don't know language, especially at a young age. Really, really young babies can laugh, but they don't know how to say anything. They don't know what you're saying. But at the same time, juvenile humor is very slapstick, what I've noticed, at least with like, in my life, the babies I've been around, they laugh a lot when you hit something or make a sound like they do something comical, but there's no language to it. There's no explanation. Why is it funny when the cat, smacks a bat on top of the mouse? It's like pain, but it's slapstick. And that just inherently is built into us to be comedic. Like, we just get a kick out of that for no reason. There's no explanation. I find that interesting. I find that bizarre that like humanity has these like inherent natural comedic tendencies. Okay, here's some answers. Mike says your whole body does go under some sort of stress when any activity is occurring. This then puts certain internal organs in tension. So yes, laughing is stressful. You're stressing me out, Mike. That's what we shouldn't call them comedians. They just stress everybody out. That's all they do. I'm very confused with Comcast right now. It is so like inconsistent. 1 second it's green, and then the next set it goes down. Maybe I should change my bandwidth settings just in case if it's gonna be this unreliable. I'm just gonna. It's audio. Audio is what matters. Stefan says it does because your abdomen muscles expand and contract. That requires a higher heart rate to pump the blood to those muscles. Okay. So you do push your heart a little bit more. Ben says, weirdly, laughter is my natural reaction to enjoying cinema. Even if it's not something funny, if I love a particular camera move or extremely emotional scene, I will laugh. I can't even explain that. That is weird. I think I'm kind of like that too, Ben. I think I've been in situations where something amazing will happen and you'll just laugh like, whoa, that's crazy. That was kind of my reaction when Starship SN8 was taking off and it did that maneuver at the last second. It tries to like swivel out at the end and land. I'm laughing, but I wouldn't really describe what Starship was doing as funny. It was just like incredible. I was witnessing something amazing and that can make you laugh. Same with like the Cybertruck unveil. I didn't think the Cybertruck looked funny. Some people probably did. But when they first unveiled it, my initial reaction was to just start laughing. Like, what is that? I remember watching it the other day. I was like, man, to go back and relive that moment when the Cybertruck drove out on stage. That was a cool moment. Sulaiman Ahmed says, I honestly love laughing. Your videos always make me laugh. Well, thank you. I don't believe you. Some of my videos are not funny, and I know that. But some people don't like the comedy bits. Some people... There are I'm not going to name names, but there are very analytical channels out there that literally make no effort to make a joke in the video. And they're just, here's the facts, here's the report, here's the numbers. I'm just going to tell you the numbers or whether or not this is good or bad. And there's no comedic tendency to it. And some people, and those channels do really, really well. Like there are, I mean, I would argue a lot of major YouTubers' videos are not that funny, but they're in depth. And they're specific, and they get their point across really, really well in a way that a lot of people can understand them. So that's what can make a successful video. But OBS, come on. I lowered the bit rate. It doesn't really make a difference. I'm glad my videos make you laugh though. Our brain needs to respond, so we fill the mental silence. Ooh, that's an interesting term. I want to hear that term brought up in more situations. Mental silence. That is a weird one. The brain doesn't know how to compute what's going on, so it needs... Okay, I did not select the video, but a video starts playing. Thanks, YouTube. I was going to see if maybe, because I'm using Chrome, maybe Chrome is the source of the bandwidth problem, but I got to bring up the chat on my phone. I got plenty of data left on my cellular, so I don't care. Your latest video on Taylor Tech made me laugh so hard. That's good. That one did make me laugh actually quite a bit while editing it. I know I'm proud of a video if I can make myself laugh in the editing process, because it's honestly really hard to do. It may sound easy, but like honestly, if you're writing a joke, planning a joke, filming the joke, and then editing the joke, you've now heard the joke like 4 or 5 times, either in your head or in execution. Like a part of a video that sounds funny, you're like, ooh, I should do this. That would be funny. Okay, let me film it. Okay, let me edit it. Now let me, watch it over. Let me export it, make sure the timing and the audio and everything's funny. And you by the time you've seen it or watched it that many times, you've heard the same joke over and over again, and it loses its effect if you've heard it that many times. So by the time you're finally finishing it, it's rarely able to get a laugh out of you if you do like comedic content that you like upload and post online. All right, I'm going to close Chrome because I want to see if that's the cause of the issue. I'm just going to read the chat off my phone. That's how you know it's a good joke. Yeah, but that's not to say like all jokes have to be that way, because there's been a lot of comedic moments, at least that I've had in YouTube history, where people thought, oh, this skit is funny, or oh, I love that bit, where I didn't think it was funny by the time I was exporting it at all. A great example of that was I'm split between the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the iPhone 12 mini video. I got way more positive feedback than I thought I was going to get, because I didn't think by the time I finished it, I didn't find it very funny. it seemed kind of cringy to me. But I had to write the whole script for it. I had the idea in my head for a while. I was like, when I can't decide which phone I want to go with, I should just do a skit where I'm like arguing with people. Um, and yet, by the time I was done editing and exporting it, uh, people were praising it, but I was done with it. I was kind of like, ugh, let's just get this over with. I bet a bunch of people are going to dislike and unsubscribe and be like, Drew, just stick to tech. Don't do comedy. Your comedy's not that interesting. Your comedy's not funny. That's what I was expecting. So I set my expectations really low. So I was very happy when people were positive to respond to it, because I was like, okay, it was funny the first time people heard it, but if they heard it probably 3 or 4 times like I did, it wouldn't be as funny. Mike says, I was hysterically laughing making the Apple Car thumbnail, but that didn't take too much time. There's a lot of those things when you see the final product of them once. It's really funny, but in the process, it's not as funny. But I'm glad that made you laugh in the editing process. That's wonderful. I'm looking down at the chat just for the record. It's... Stefan says, I know this is random, but I've been having a ton of issues with my AirPods Pro. Yeah, I did too. Switch over to a FaceTime call when I put them in my ears. Is anyone else? Yes, you're not alone. We've always, with the tech podcast, we always have had issues with AirPods and FaceTime. Like anytime we'll try to switch AirPods while we're on a FaceTime call, we can't get the audio to switch over, or the connection will drop. It's by far, in my opinion, one of the weakest points of the Apple ecosystem is when you start doing AirPods and group FaceTime. I've been doing it for over a year now, and I can confidently say on public releases of the software, it has been bumpy and not very seamless, and everything just works and integrated. No, sometimes it works, but there's a lot of times it doesn't. Did you see those pictures at the Tesla factory? I did. I'll probably do a video on that tomorrow, or maybe Giga Shanghai. I don't know. One of those. What do you think is the funniest movie? Oh, that is extremely subjective, Ben. Probably depends on the mood I'm in. There's certain comedic scenes, I would say. It kind of depends who I'm with. If I was watching a movie with my best friend Ross, the funniest movie we could watch together is probably not going to be the same as the funniest movie me and my wife could watch together. Like, it's just different audiences. Or if I'm with my family, there's going to be different types of movies we'd watch. Someone like me and Ross, my good buddy in the Air Force, if we were watching a movie together, we would probably laugh the most at watching a movie like Men in Black or Mouse Hunt. That's kind of our comedic style. But if I'm with Louise, it's outright, no question, Scary Movie 3. She loves that movie, and I love that movie too. She's a fan of the Scary Movie series, which is fairly schlocky, and it's not very high class comedy. It's very, it's very cheesy and very low brow. But I'll still admit, whenever we watch either Scary Movie 1 or even a lot of Scary Movie 2, I think we even laughed quite a bit watching Scary Movie 5, which I thought was going to be terrible. A lot of it was terrible, but I ended up laughing quite a bit with it. So I would not watch Scary Movie 3 with my parents, though. If I was with my mom and dad, they would hate that movie. Like, they would despise the entire thing. They probably would not laugh a single time if we tried to watch it. And same with Ross. Like, if I tried to watch Scary Movie 3 with Ross, he would probably hate it and think it's gross and disgusting. So it kind of depends on who I'm with. The genre changes. If I'm with my parents, probably a movie like The Three Amigos, or specifically if I'm with my dad, I would be Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We always laugh at that movie. This is like very different comedic styles. But yeah, this is a good question. Funniest movie. There's a data. We haven't done the research on this, but there's data out there. You guys ever think about that? There's data that goes by every day that goes uncollected and we never know about it. But one piece of data that I always think about is there's a movie out there that you have laughed the most times per minute with, but we don't know what that is because we probably didn't count it. Oh, now the sun comes out and gets all bright in here. Can I adjust this? There's like, think about that though for a second. How about you guys? I know my answers. It depends on who I'm with, so you guys can incorporate that in your answers. No, the contrast thing doesn't help. Brightness. Can I lower that? Hey, that looks a little better. I can adjust that on the fly. I'm probably gonna forget about this later. And then I'm gonna be like, why does it look so dark? Men in Black is great. I never saw the newer one. I heard it didn't do very well. People didn't like it. What if you're on your own? Oh, I didn't think about that. Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think the last time I watched a movie by myself. Oh, dang. I can't remember now. Have I? There's movies I've watched with like Louise in the room, but she's not watching it, but she'll still be like on her phone or something. We don't have a very big house, you know. Like it's if she's in the bedroom on her phone and I'm on the couch, something's probably gone wrong. There's probably an issue. I mean, all couples, you know, can have their occasional fight or disagreement, or I wouldn't even call what we have fights. It's occasional argument, but for us, it never really lasts more than like 10 minutes. If there's a misunderstanding or a disagreement on something, we normally have it resolved within 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're back to hugging and stuff. By myself? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. I don't think I missed that though. I'm like questioning myself. I'm questioning myself internally now. Do I miss the days when I could watch a movie by myself? Not really. In fact, I remember back when I was a bachelor and I wasn't living with anybody. I remember whenever I would watch a movie, I would want to invite somebody over. I was always like, "Can someone come over? Like, I want either my sister or my buddy or girlfriend, somebody come over and watch this with me." I think, yeah. I don't think I ever like intentionally was like, everybody get out of my life so I can watch this movie. Ooh, you know, I just had a thought. Maybe one that I might want to watch by myself is Tenet, you know, because it sounds very confusing. I haven't seen it yet because all the theaters shut down where I am. But I'm a big Chris Nolan fan. I like Chris Nolan movies. And Louise doesn't like sci-fi as much. She's not a big fan of those like intricate, complicated movies. Like we watched Inception together, and she was pretty confused for a lot of it, so I would have to keep pausing it and explaining it to her. And honestly, I don't mean that as a complaint. Like Louise will pick up on plot inaccuracies in movies that I don't notice. We'll go back and watch a movie, and she'd be like, "Wait, how does that make sense?" And I go, "Oh, you're right. I didn't think about that. Hold on a second." Uh, she was like, "This doesn't make sense. How come this character can do this but won't do this?" And I'll be like, "Oh man, I don't know, hun. I guess they didn't think of that when they wrote the movie." Um, yeah, I don't know. Mike says just like Wonder Woman 2, go into the new Men in Black with low expectations. I would have to get HBO Max to watch Wonder Woman 2, so that's it. That would be about it. Was it during the attic days? It might have been. Most of the time I would have either a friend over, or I can't recall a lot of times in the attic days watching a movie by myself because either my sister or my parents were nearby. It was probably like an R-rated movie they wouldn't want me watching, and I would watch that by myself, but that's rarely a comedy. Is comedy kind of a social thing? When you think about it, like how often do people want to laugh all alone by themselves? I always start to feel like a crazy person if I start laughing by myself. I mean, I watch YouTubers and I watch videos and stuff that'll make me laugh when no one else is around, but I also have Discord right there, so I can like share whatever made me laugh really quickly, or I can text it to someone. It's like comedy is like an inherent thing that we like to share. We like to do with others, not necessarily be all by ourselves. Maybe some of you may disagree with that. I don't know. That's something I might be picking up on here. Just when you watch Tenet, follow Nolan's advice. Don't try to understand it, feel it. That totally sounds like something Nolan would say. Don't try to understand it. Sounds like you can't understand it. Sounds like something screenwriter with a lot of plot holes would say. Okay, Zoltan says, I like laughing alone. Okay, so some of you disagree. That's fair. I prefer laughing by myself. Laughing with other people makes me feel embarrassed. No, it depends on the people. I don't mean laughing around strangers or people you're not comfortable with. Laughing around with a friend or if you guys watch like the live reactions of me watching Samsung events and that kind of thing, you want to laugh with somebody. You want to laugh. That's why reaction channels can be so popular, commentary tracks and that kind of thing. American Pie series is great. I haven't seen that one. Maybe Luis has. Stefan says, I'm vacuuming the living room right now. I just feel like I needed to say that for no reason. Okay, now everybody who listens to this podcast can know that. Mike says, wife and I picked up on a lot of plot hole inconsistencies in Endgame, where Tony looks at Doctor Strange for the timeline confirm, but it's from across the entire battlefield. There's a lot of issues with Endgame, but it's still a great movie. I feel that way with a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies that have plot holes and have inconsistencies, but are still great. And I'm not talking about more recent ones. Like, there's all kinds of issues with some of the greatest movies, I think, ever. Some of the most popular Indiana Jones or some of the most well-beloved Star Wars movies. There are all kinds of inconsistencies or things that don't really make sense in them. But the goal of a movie or a story really should be trying to get you so captivated and engaged in the story and the characters, or at least the situation that's going on, that you don't think about the inconsistencies. Like Jurassic Park is an amazing movie, probably number one favorite movie for a lot of people. And there's all kinds of problems with that movie. It makes no sense that the T-Rex is behind this electric fence enclosure, and then he comes out of the enclosure, and then when he starts knocking the cars, there's suddenly a giant cliff right where he walked out from. And we're like, wait, where did this giant cliff come from? Also, there's like typos and movie mistakes and all kinds of things in Jurassic Park, but it's still a wonderful movie. But nothing is perfect. Some people call Back to the Future for being one of the most airtight plots of all time. It's pretty close. There's still some issues with it, but as a whole, as far as the plot goes, the original Back to the Future, I'm not talking about part 2 or part 3, but the OG Back to the Future, pretty dang airtight as a plot. You got to establish certain rules and guidelines in your universe, for one. I mean, we can all make the argument TIE fighters and X-Wings shouldn't make any sounds in space, but they do. But you can set certain rules and expectations going into a picture. Jumping RC in Toy Story 1 is a funny inconsistency to me, but that universe's physics is already borked. Toy Story has all kinds of issues that don't make sense to me. Same with Cars, logically it doesn't make sense, but you gotta just eventually put yourself in the universe and be like, okay, these are the rules. This is the ballpark we're playing in, and once you understand that, you can get engaged and interested in the characters. Because I still love the Toy Story movies, but how the universe works makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, there's a scene in Toy Story 3 where Buster comes in and lays down on Woody, and Woody can't breathe. He's like, Buster, no. And then he pushes Buster off and he goes, and I'm like, he doesn't have lungs. What? Why is he gasping? I don't get it. But, that's the laws of the universe. They're lifelike, Could you suffocate a toy to death? And would the kid still be playing with the toy? Because he's dead anyway? It doesn't make sense. We'll talk about the Apple VR headset rumors. Long story short, I don't believe them. They don't sound believable to me. Except for when Laureen says, Marty, such a nice name, but they don't use the name until the third kid. Yeah? That's not really a plot inconsistency. They could have just chose not to name their kid Marty until the third kid. Or the fact that there's no way they would have recognized that their kid looks a lot like the guy that appeared in their life for 1 week to help them fall in love. I disagree with that. I've seen a lot of people make that argument. I'm not saying Back to the Future is a perfect movie, because I have seen a lot of legitimate issues with it, but I firmly believe that... How old was Marty again? What, 16, 17 years old? with the amount of time that goes by, and that's not even their first kid. That was like their third kid. If you met someone for 1 week in high school and then like minimum 20 years went by, I guarantee you would have a hard time recognizing them again. That's a long time. I don't think people realize that. Most of us are, barely breaking the 20-year mark, let alone like living your life for an additional 20 years after already being around. You just met a guy, you hang out with him for like a week, and then he's gone, and they didn't really take pictures with him or anything. I totally buy that they would not recognize him. That's believable to me. All the kinds of stuff your parents forget. Think about how many things your parents have forgot. My parents forgot what my name was half the time growing up. Shout out to mom and dad. I know they loved me. There's just Abby, Emily, Drew, Pickle. That's the cat. They get them all mixed up. There's all kinds of stuff. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. So yeah, I could definitely forget a guy I met in high school like 20 years ago. Totally could easily forget that. And I think it was more than 20 years because they had to, they started dating in the events of Back to the Future. And then they're going to date for a few more years and then eventually get married and then be married for a while, then have one kid, have another kid, then have Marty, and then wait till Marty's like 16 or 17 before they would actually be able to make the connection. Hey, he kind of looks like that guy. No. I would say that's like a spooky good memory if you could remember that. If they were taking pictures with him and whatnot, that would be a different story, but they didn't really. My parents always mixed me and my sisters up. Yeah, that's a common thing. My brother's name is Nick, and my mom always says Nicholas. No, wait, which one are you again? It'd be like, one of you. That's what my mom would start to say. One of you. Pick this up. Clean this up. I reckon Doc would have told them about him before he was born. Doc would have told them about him? Why would he tell them? Doc was all against, like, breaking the space-time continuum. He wouldn't want to tell them. You haven't seen Back to the Future? Oh, it's a good one. I'd recommend it. Some of it is not aged well. Some of it is not as politically correct as most movies are today. But it's a solid movie. Solid trilogy. We watched all three earlier last year. Very entertaining. A lot of action, a lot of comedy, a lot of great acting. A lot of great actors in that picture, especially the guy who plays Biff. I forget his name. I'm turning 20 this year. That's a long time. Yes, it is, SD. Big 2-0. No longer a teenager. That's a big jump. I'm going to be turning 23 next month. Wow. 23. Why does that sound like so much older than 22? It isn't really. It's just 1 year. I don't know. I think I just remember growing up hearing a lot of other adults say like, oh, that person's 23 years old. That person's 23. And when I'm like, well, I'm 23. Then you start thinking about like, wow, 22, that was it. You're never going to be 22 again. It happened. It's in the past. Thomas F. Wilson, that's his name, yeah. I did a whole video on him. I should have remembered. That was a few months ago. See, I can't remember a name I did a whole movie on 3 months ago. 23 is peak everything, isn't it? Yeah, it's all downhill from 23. That's when life gets tough. Everything just starts falling to crap after 23. You're basically dead by 25. Sorry, Mike. It's only 365.25 times 24 hours. Mike says time has flown by too quickly during my 20s. I know. I bet you're wishing you did more movie review podcasts. I don't know. I'm trying to think back. Like, what... I don't recall living with much regrets in my life. I'm a fairly optimistic person with how I spend my time. And I'm very grateful for my job and my work and what I've been doing lately. And I feel glad that all of the content I've produced over the years is all pretty much still available. You can still watch it on YouTube, and it'll probably, if nothing goes wrong and the world doesn't end, you'll probably still be able to watch all this work I'm putting into the channel and the network. You'll probably still be able to watch all this stuff decades from now, assuming nothing goes horribly wrong. And it's I'm trying to think, like, when I get closer to the end of my life, what will I wish I would have done more of? Probably things like travel or try new things or new foods or different cultures. It's hard to do that now, but my wife and I definitely talk a lot about traveling more when we get through the pandemic. Mid-Drew crisis. We've talked about this before, I think, but you know what's trippy is you don't know when the middle of your life is. You could be in your midlife right now if you die at twice your age. You know, if some of you die at 40 and you're 20 now, this is your midlife moment. This is it. You could be having a midlife crisis. No one knows, right? We're just on a rock floating through space. There could be another tiny rock that hits you at any moment. Marson says, that's not good to hear since I turned 24 next month. Another February birthday? My God, I have so many family members with birthdays in February. My aunt and I were born on the same day, just different years. But yeah, it's like still February 17th for my aunt and for me. And then her husband, as in my uncle, was born on the 19th, I think. And I believe my other uncle was also born in February. And my wife, of course, was born in February. And there's a lot of February birthdays. I don't know why that is. You have great faith in humanity if you think nothing is going to go horribly wrong. Well, Ben, people have always thought something would go horribly wrong. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, people were all freaking out about the net neutrality thing, acting like the internet was basically going to collapse as we know it in 2020 or 2019 or whatever. And nothing really happened. There have been people saying that the end is near since the beginning of time. You know, people were saying the world was going to end hundreds of years ago. And so far, no one's got it right yet. I mean, there have been things that have gone bad, but you want a little truth bomb? It's a little crazy right now. I think there has never been a safer time to be alive. As crazy as that sounds, with the advancements of modern medicine and the advancements of how accessible medical treatment can become, we can't brag about the affordability of said treatment, but it's still there. You know, some people have the misconception that if you go to the hospital and your arm was ripped off, they'd be like, well, how much money do you have? I don't have any money. Well, we can't help you. No, it's like they help you first. Bill comes later. But no, I genuinely think like at no other point in history was it safer to be alive. And I think probably some of the most dangerous times in humanity's history was probably during the Cold War. I feel like that was the closest humanity had ever been at like destroying itself. There have been like wars in the past that were dangerous, obviously, and like countries invading other countries and that kind of stuff. World War II, World War I, all that major warfare going on. But right after the atomic bomb first went off, I'm thinking about it now because we watched Empire of the Sun last night. Really good movie. And that's all about World War II and the atom bomb and stuff. And I feel like during the Cuban Missile Crisis, like when we had multiple major superpowers with lots of nuclear firepower, some very quick, poor decision making could have ended humanity fairly quickly. Like, it could have just been as simple as, oh, okay, we're too nervous with this situation. We're going to send a nuke. Oh, they sent a nuke, so we're going to send 2 nukes. Oh, okay, they sent 2 nukes. We're going to send 4. You know, it could have easily escalated to just who's going to nuke the other country more. And I guess there's still some possibility of that. You know, it's still, I don't know. I just feel like it's not as on edge as it once was. I hope that's not getting into the political face. Living is bad for your health. Mike says, my aunt and I were born in the same day, but different years. Well, it would get a bit complicated if your aunt was younger. That's not as rare as you think, Mike. I know people like that. It's not as complicated as you might imagine. Reminds me of War Games. Yeah. I remember War Games. I saw that a long time ago. The world is unlikely to totally end, but the majority of humanity, frankly, cares too much about themselves to care about saving the future generations from climate change. I'd say there's a large majority of people acting on climate change. I don't know if it's. I know it's not everybody. Some people don't care, but I think we're making good strides. It is complicated. Not really. It just means your mother had a kid. Uh, your mother had a kid after. No, that's sister. Aunt. No, I'm trying to think because I know someone who is older than their uncle. Like I know that is a thing, which means their grandma had a kid after the first. Okay, you're right. It is complicated. You just broke my brain. I admit it is complicated. I guess it's not rare. Yeah, I watched Lemino. Your grandparents had a kid. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. If your yeah, that's not complicated. Cheyenne says I have a 12-year-old uncle. Yeah, grandparent had a kid younger than you. That just means they had a kid. They had a kid that was older than you. You would that's most situation. That's just you were born and then they were born. But in certain families, when uh, the couple starts having kids at a very very young age, there are certain cultures in certain families where they start having kids like right away. You can be a grandma by the time they're like before they're 40. In some cultures, I've heard of that, and then if before they're 40 they're having another kid, but their first kid is having children, then yeah, you would get uncles and aunts younger than you. It happens. Your grandma had a kid after you were born. There you go. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Oh my god. The world will fall apart soon. I feel like it's only a matter of time. Well, Stefan, people were saying that hundreds of years ago. I honestly feel like we're probably being too picky for saying like, oh, the world's gonna fall apart. Imagine how people felt during World War II, just rewatching Empire of the Sun. My God, you go back and watch those movies about the war and stuff, and you know that the war ended in 45, but they didn't know that. They had no way of knowing if Germany was gonna take over the world, or how long this conflict was gonna keep going, or how many atom bombs were gonna end up going off. You had no clue when this was going to end or how this was going to stop and who was going to win. You would have been convinced. Anyone who thought the world was going to end during World War II, I don't blame them. If they thought like this is the end of humanity, like we're just going to kill everybody, like I would not blame them. Nowadays, I'm like, okay, come on. Yes, there's lots of issues in the world, but is the whole thing going to end soon? What does that really mean? Some people view the world as ending as like, the inner core detonating and just the entire Death Star style, just the whole thing explodes. Or do we mean the end of like the civilized era, as in like, governments crumble and currency no longer works and we all go back to the Stone Ages of like barter and trading food and we don't have like an established government anymore and it just becomes everybody for themselves. What is end of the world really? Do we just mean end of civilization, or do we mean end of justice, end of control, end of having a civilized society? Or I genuinely feel like most people prefer things, not all, but most people prefer things to have a certain amount of order to them, and will try to preserve that as much as they can. There are definitely people that go against it when things don't go their way. I know that, but I feel like there's a reason humanity has kind of settled down to a certain extent in more recent centuries and kind of been more, okay, here's what taxes are for, and here's what we have cities and we have streets, and we all we abide by certain rules and certain legislation, and you can change that legislation if you follow the proper steps. And, I think the general consensus is this is how we want humanity to progress. We don't want every man for himself. We don't want whoever has the most firepower gets to control everybody else. We try to have certain unalienable rights that people have just for being people, and we grant them permission to certain things. I feel like, I personally don't believe that's going anywhere. Some people might. I don't think that's all going to fall apart just because politics are messy. Politics have always been messy, but yes, they're still messy today. Hey, there's Dad. He says nuclear war was a bigger threat in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So let me ask you this, Dad. What? This is one way to talk. What? Why are they no longer a threat in the more 21st century area? Don't we all still have nukes that could potentially be set off? I could potentially make the argument that nuclear defense systems are a lot more sophisticated now, probably, than they were in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Back then, there were a lot of big countries with lots of nukes that were kind of pointing them at each other. Tensions were pretty high. Nowadays, we have all kinds of surface-to-air defense systems and like high-intensity lasers that can be fired at missiles mid-air in ways of deflecting nuclear warheads in the event of an attack, some of which is not top secret. Some of it I'm sure we don't know about, and the government doesn't really disclose because they want that on the DL. But what made that threat go away? Ben says, bring on the 24/7 purge. What if Earth's inner core does explode? Yeah, that would not be good. I don't think it will, but Stefan says, update, I broke the Dyson vacuum. Another part of the stream. In other news, the world is ending for Stefan today because he broke his Dyson vacuum. Clean it out, check the intake, check the breaker box, you'll be good. How to survive a nuclear bomb, pray. Also, get away from windows. I think there are a few things you can do. If you're a certain radius from a detonation, you're screwed. But if there's a certain distance from an atomic blast you can be at where it's like, well, if you take the proper precautions, you'll survive. You'll probably have to deal with some radioactive tendencies. But okay, Dad says, still a threat. Just seems that the world is less tense about it. I bet we would be surprised at how very little we are prepared for nukes. That's true. Because no nukes have really gone out in combat in, decades now. So most people aren't really thinking about that as a threat because mutually assured destruction, right? The countries all kind of decided, it's probably not a good idea to set these things off. People want an update on the book, Dad. I love the idea of Drew's dad just being like, hey, Drew is live. Let me just pop in the chat real quick. Is school out yet, Dad? Are you watching YouTube while you're in class? Are the kids being ignored? A dangerous situation no one talks about is how two bordering countries who are sworn enemies of each other both have nuclear weapons, India and Pakistan. Yeah. I don't know why you say no one talks about that, though. I feel like a lot of people talk about that. Oh, it's Friday. People are done earlier. I think I can increase the brightness now. Okay. Dad is off of school. We are safe. That way, brightness looks a little bit good. I'm just going to put it to 0. That's 0 brightness, by the way. Now I'm a little brighter. Dad says, more on the book this summer, need to retire. Yeah, he's coming up on retirement, so he'll have a lot more free time then. Some vacuums have an overheat thing. I love the drastic variety in these subjects. 1 second, it's like, yeah, two countries could literally wipe each other out with their nuclear warheads. Next second, Stefan's vacuum isn't working. What happened to the Tailosive app? I don't know how many times I really have to say this. I feel like I've been saying it for like a year now. Basically, the app ended up being a lot more complicated to make than we thought. Once again, not my idea. A team of devs, well, it started off with just one dev, Ethan, came to me and said, I could make an app for Tailosive. Are you okay with that? Is that cool? And I said, sure, go for it. As long as there's a way for me to be reimbursed financially for people watching content on the app, then I'm all for it. Go ahead. And I helped them with, they wanted me to use a certain uploader. But then when it came to ad revenue and getting the app to do all the things we wanted it to, what we thought was like this is the 90% of development and we just got to figure out the last 10%. Turned out we had only really done the 10%, and there was a remaining 90% that none of the devs really knew how to handle. And I just told them, hey, like, look, don't stress over this, because none of them were full-time devs. None of them were like, this is their dedicated job. They don't do anything else. They were all still doing school and classes and stuff. And I just told them, hey, focus on that stuff first, because Tailosive will be okay if there's no app. I'd appreciate it if you make one and you can make it happen and stuff. That's great. But if you can't make it work, don't worry about it. I won't be mad at anybody. There's no like expectation that you have to get the app ready. I was just like, if it's fun and you enjoy it, sure, go ahead and make one. But if it becomes too stressful or too complicated and you don't know what to do, don't worry about it. You can work on other things. And that's basically how we ended it. It was just like, okay, it's a little too complicated. Can't figure it out. Basically not happening. I used to have like a Roomba knockoff. It wasn't called the Roomba, but a company sent me a little robot cleaning vacuum thing. It was okay, but ultimately the issue I have with all those little robot cleaning things is you end up cleaning them. The amount of time you spend cleaning the robot could have just spent cleaning the room itself. I mean, they're not that good at what they do, especially if you live in a residence with lots of different drops and levels. Like our house here has several different, like, the kitchen is lower and the living room's higher, and there's little extensions, so the floors aren't even. And they get caught up in wires and stuff. There's things you have around on the floor that they can't, if they get close to it, they're just going to get stuck, and then you got to go help them. It ended up being more trouble than help. So I had it for a few years and we sold them off. I think we cleaned them up and sold them to someone on Facebook. We were just like, these aren't very helpful. It's easier to just, there's the mess, I will clean that, instead of be like, let me press a button and hope the robot eventually picks it up and doesn't get stuck along the way. And when you clean a vacuum cleaner, you become a vacuum cleaner. Do you guys know that? Holy crap. Weird how the video about the app was just recommended to me recently. Oh yeah, we did a few videos. I don't know, people must have been very interested in that idea. But yeah, it's fairly complicated. It's a lot more complex than you think. The layout part of it and the design part is relatively easy. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that, but just figuring out how the app looks and how the videos are displayed and stuff, that part is really, really simple, relatively speaking. I mean, it's still hours and hours of work went into that. I'm not trying to make light of that, but I'm just saying that part of the development process wasn't so complicated. The complicated part was figuring out advertising, revenue streams, income. That ended up being way more complicated than we thought. So you just become a cleaner unless you suck all the dirt up with your mouth. No, a vacuum cleaner. You're cleaning the vacuum. So you are a vacuum cleaner. Have you thought about dyeing your hair a different color, even for just a while? Thought about it, decided it's a terrible idea. Not going to do it. If anything, I'm going to cut my hair. We need that soon. Probably just save it for a vlog so people can be like, finally! Louise has cut my hair and shaved my beard ever since we've been married. Haven't paid for a single haircut since I've been married. No, we don't suck it up with your mouth. Don't do that. Bad idea, Ben. When Ben says something crazy, you just cut to Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens. Ben! All right, back to nukes. My favorite subject. Nukes between rogue nations and terrorists getting them are the biggest threat. Russia or China shooting nukes at the U.S. is probably unlikely because they need our money and need us to buy and sell. Yeah, there's a lot of economy and infrastructure set in place between two countries doing business like that together. So yeah, it would be kind of mutually destructive to send nukes at major superpowers like that. But yeah, keeping them away from terrorist organizations, that's a good idea. Anyway, restaurants. Are shops and restaurants open where you are, Drew? Everything's closed here in the UK except for pharmacies and supermarkets. They're kind of open. A lot of places have like outdoor seating, but we usually don't go to them. Typically, well, right now we're just trying to keep all of our food under $200 a month. So that involves a lot of not eating out anyway. Although we did use a coupon at KFC yesterday, but if we do go out, it's usually through the drive-through. We didn't get much. We just got the little famous bowl thing. We didn't leave the car. Mutually assured destruction. Exactly. I thought I said that earlier. Oh, good. New update from Stefan. The vacuum is working now. We're okay. Drew asks, do you like sushi? I love sushi. I haven't had sushi in forever because ever since the shutdown, I haven't been able to really go someplace with good sushi. I probably had the opportunity to. I just never did. Yeah, I've got to miss sushi. It's kind of small, though. You know? When you spend a lot of money on a meal, you kind of want something big. Kind of feels weird when you drop a lot of money and it's just on this like thin little plate. If someone was buying it for me, I'd be like, oh, cool, sushi. But if I'm buying it, then that makes me want to get something like a burger. But now Louise can make the best burgers in the world, so I don't need to leave. She's amazing at that. For Americans, it's small. Yeah. That's the American stuff. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall. A little roll of sushi. It's like not that. Think of the weight. A lot of it's rice, too. You know, you're paying a lot for dirt cheap rice. There's probably a good way to make sushi from home. We'll figure it out. I used to think there was no way we could like make burgers that were as good as like restaurant burgers in our own kitchen. I was like, we can make some stuff from home, but I don't know about like a really good like fast food burger. And then she made one and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was so delicious. Isn't there sushi delivery where you live? No, I live kind of way out rural area. It's kind of far out away from everybody. And they don't have any of the Uber Eats or DoorDash thing. It's funny because we'll get ads for DoorDash in the mail, but it's not available here, which is funny. We're pretty far out. Like when you drop $700 on an iPhone, it's only 5.4 inches. I'm not eating it. Stefan, it's different. You gotta buy a bunch of food. I would say size isn't necessarily good. Otherwise, you know, is an iPad Pro, that's a bad example. Is an iPad Pro objectively better than an iPhone because it's bigger? No, it's not that simple. Drew, dang, I didn't know you talked about the Tailosive app. I don't watch you often. Oh, okay. Fair enough, Jordan. Fair enough. I will. Maybe I should do a vlog just explaining to people why the app isn't happening. If it makes things easier, maybe I'll just take the video down. I don't like taking videos down, but sometimes I have to. I'm going to need someone to leak Louise's cooking a burger. We want to do more food videos. I don't mean ironically. I mean like right now a lot of time is spent outside of work. I gotta be honest. Like the amount of time we spend on I Love Louise is probably a lot more than you'd think. When we edit it and upload it, it probably looks a lot simple, but there's a lot of productive discussion that goes on to make those scripts the way we like them. Like what jokes are okay to make, what jokes aren't okay to make. Getting the script right can take a while. So when I wake up early in the morning and I'm like, okay, I got to get 4 pieces of content done today. I got a tech vid. All right, I got to do a tech stream. Now I got to do EV vid. Now I'm going to do a vlog. Okay, now I'm done with work. Now we're going to write the script. Now we're going to film the skit. Now we're going to do all that. And by the time we're done with it, it's like, wow, there's a whole lot that's gone into this. So we don't have a ton of time, but me and Louise have both talked about it and said that when we're done with the first season of I Love Louise, we want to use that extra time on something else. Probably not skit making, but probably high on that list is making more food content, just like filming the process of making some of Louise's most epic meals. And they are really good. So we want to actually put like genuine content on the food channel, not just like meme stuff. That's a lot of what it is, but I'm not against making like genuine food content because food impacts us greatly. You know, we all got to eat. So figuring out how to make affordable, tasty food from home, I think would be genuinely helpful to a lot of people. So I think there's a lot of potential in that channel, but my mind does this with every channel. You know, every time I get excited or start getting working, I'm like, you know, I think we talk a lot about movies and TV shows. I'm gonna really make a lot of movie review content. I'm gonna do more movie videos. This impacts us, and I can watch movies in my downtime and then review them on my work time. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be big. And then I get distracted with some other. You know, space is really like the progression of mankind. This is what technology is really meant to do, is like prolong our self-consciousness and bring humanity to another planet and outside Earth, and maybe someday outside the solar system, and covering that and covering how that technology is improving. I should really focus on this, and then I get distracted with something else. So there's not enough time in the day for everything. I'm just picking and choosing my battles. Drew's been popping off on the vlog. Yes, I have. Try to stay on top of the vlogs. Next episode of I Love Louise is going to involve cooking of some sort. It hasn't, by the way. It's been filmed. I'm in the process of editing it, but y'all will see it tomorrow. I hope it's funny. We couldn't tell when writing a lot of this. We're like, is this too serious? I don't know. I feel that distraction so much. The time of Talos of Main channel is over. The time of the food channel has begun. It's Talos of TV now. But I'm okay with TV taking breaks. Because honestly, with our current work schedules and the pandemic, it's pretty difficult to get like a well-crafted skit out every Saturday. It's kind of tricky. So I don't mind like having on seasons and off seasons with Talos of TV. What's nice about the network is that you're not alone. Yeah, I got Louise. I've got the podcast channel. I've got other people. Mike wants to make stuff. I want to see what Mike can make. Entrepreneur's curse. Yeah. Entrepreneur. That's a fun one. I'd love to see some home recipe videos from you both. Yeah, I want to get them out there. Believe me, more times than you'd expect. I have asked Louise, can we record this? Can we stream this? And she was like, well, if we record it, I gotta clean everything up, and then I gotta comb my hair. She doesn't want to look bad, which is stupid because she always looks good, even when she thinks she looks bad. I'm like, honey, you look great. You're next to me. You'll never look bad next to me. You don't have to worry about how your hair. But she's like, no. If I'm gonna be on camera, I want to comb my hair, and I want to wear a certain thing, and I want to see what my face looks like, and I don't know. She cares about that kind of thing, whereas I'm the type of guy that's like bedhead, wake out a morning like this, and I'm like, hey everyone, I'm here to talk about the new iPad today. And everyone's like, Drew, you look ugly. And I'm like, I know. What are your thoughts? We just kind of move on with that. I mean, when you make as many videos as I have, and you're producing as much content as regularly, you start to forget, or not forget, but you start to not care really what you look like, because you see yourself so much on camera and you hear your voice so much. You're like, whatever. Someone's going to say, oh, that your beard looks weird. It's like, all right, yeah, it does. Moving on. I don't really want people to be watching my videos because of how well trim I am. That attracts kind of a different audience. I watch him because he's so in shape and his hair is so perfect. Every video, it's combed exactly right. That's why I watch his channel. I'm like, that's okay. That I don't need to be that guy. I can be the sloppy, like, he just rolled out of bed and started recording, didn't he? Yep. Guilty as charged. There have been several times there have been minutes, single-digit minutes between waking up and hitting the record button, especially those early morning videos when a new Apple product gets announced, and I'm like, holy crap, I got to start work early. AirPods Max was probably the most recent one. I woke up, I think Louise had work at around 6, but the alarm went off at 5:30, and I got my phone out and I looked at Mac rumors, and it was like Apple launches AirPods Max like 2 minutes ago. So I'd just woken up, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be one of those days. So I throw the phone to the side, I get up, and I come in here, and I turn on all the lights and start recording. And I hadn't even been awake for probably 5 minutes yet. I'd literally just checked my phone, just woke up, and now I'm recording. And basically, I'm scrolling through the web page about the product, listing off the features and the price point and all that. So yeah, that's happened several times. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not always going to look the best. That's fine. Sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. I used to have Dollar Shave Club back when I thought like there was a certain age when I thought the more subscriptions you had, the cooler you were. I had this like, oh yeah, I'm a Prime member. I got YouTube Premium. I got Netflix. I got Dollar Shave Club. I get such elite access because I can afford. And then when I got older, I'm like, wait, this is kind of stupid. You're just like giving away all your money every month, and they get away with it. I'll just buy one razor that works for like a year. Call it a day. ACC says, love your videos. Keep it going. I also really like the unique comedy aspect you had. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that someone finds that humor funny, because I know that there's not a lot of other channels that laugh at the same things I laugh at. So to find other people that also get a kick out of that is good to know. I made this schloes. What is Mike talking about? I made this. Shows glob of clay. Shows a glob of clay? What? Do you enjoy watching older sitcoms like I Love Lucy? I haven't watched much of I Love Lucy, but yeah, we watched with Mike actually. We watched the first couple episodes of WandaVision. I almost don't want it to give us answers. I don't want it to turn back into a Marvel show where like, oh, what's happening to Wanda? What's happening to Vision? What's going on here? It's like, no, just give me the like fake sitcom stuff. That stuff was interesting. That was more funny. I want them to just keep doing that, but based in the 50s. Takes glob of clay. I can't tell you how many of my YouTube videos have literally started from bed or make after I get out of bed. There's an idea. Maybe I should bring my desk setup to bed. If I got a MacBook and then a camera and my background was just my bedroom, we could get to a point where I could record, edit, and post videos without leaving the mattress. That sounds pretty amazing, doesn't it? That's the life. It always feels weird to me. You know, some channels, can I be completely honest with you guys? I'll be live for probably another 13 minutes or so. 2 o'clock is when my wife gets off. That's when I want to go hug her and kiss her. So there are channels with editing processes and formats that I am jealous of. Primarily, there's other channels that do this, but the Tesla Daily podcast. I don't know if it's called Tesla Daily. Maybe it's just called Tesla Daily. But his style of just recording audio and then screen recording the articles he's referencing. I think he occasionally has A-roll. A-roll, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, like me standing and talking to the camera. This isn't really edited video, so it's different. But if this was an edited video, me talking to you at the camera, that's the A-roll. B-roll would be the cutaway shots. Here's the article talking about what I'm discussing. Here's a picture of the product I'm talking about. Instead, just kind of going all in on B-roll, he gets to just record his audio and do screen recordings of articles and stuff. And I started seeing some of his videos and how many topics he can cover and how quickly he can post any of those subjects. I'm like, man, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Because now I feel like I'd be a copycat if I tried to do that myself. Occasionally, I'll do something really quick and simple like that, where I'm like, I'm just going to screen record and then talk over it. But I was doing that with the movie review videos today because that's kind of the style of movie reviews, a bit more artistic. It's not so much like, here's the news, here's the latest in Tesla, here's the latest in Apple. With that, it's like, here's my opinions, here's my story, here's my background with this movie, or here's my thoughts on this. I could do it, but I wouldn't feel good about it because I would feel like, especially now that I'm on the public record talking about it, I've really dug the grave now. No, but like people are already doing that. So if I did that myself, it would just be like screaming into a crowd. It's like everybody's already, and he's probably not the only channel doing that too. So I don't know, something about standing upright and and setting up the camera and pointing the camera at me makes me feel like a video is actually being recorded, being made, taking place. Whereas it almost feels like a cheat when I do videos where I don't even get up. You know, I sit here, I record the audio, and then I import the audio into Final Cut and add in all the cutaways. If I don't get up and yet I made a whole video, it doesn't feel like I made a video. I don't know why that is. It doesn't really make any sense that my brain thinks that way. Like, yes, there are videos that do very well on YouTube that were made entirely sitting down or laying down. Because with Tesla Daily, if you never show your face, I guess you could show your face. If you never show your face and just record audio from a microphone and then do screen recording of the articles you're talking about or the pictures you're referencing, you could do all that from bed. You could do all of that without even getting out of bed, which is awesome. That's so efficient and lazy. I love it. That's what I admire about that type of editing process. But I feel like if I started doing it, it would just be like, oh, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. And I've always tried to be somewhat aware of that. I don't know if I've talked about this publicly. I might have. But sometimes when I make a video, I will search the title I'm planning on making and see what kind of results come up. Because if I make a video with the same thumbnail and the same title as 800 other people, I just look like a copycat, even if it's unintentional. Sometimes you'll make a video title and thumbnail and you're not looking at any other content creator doing the same thing. But if you do it, people are going to be like, oh, he's just like copying this other YouTuber trying to do the same thing, say the same points, make the same argument. So when I make a video, I try to see what thumbnail are people using, what title are people using. I'm going to try to make something different because I want to set myself aside from everybody else. I don't want to just be an echo chamber, just repeat what other people have already said. So I'll just look it up. I'll just be like, I want to make a video called GM wants to make a Corvette SUV, but why? So I looked that up and I'm like, okay, there's no one really using that kind of title. These are the thumbnails they're using, so I'm not going to use that type of thumbnail. I'm going to use my own style, different looking thumbnail. It's kind of, I don't know. I want to separate myself a little bit. Mike Mike says he enjoyed the movie review, very unique, and draws in the audience towards the story in the movie as well. Thank you. No one will see it, but thank you. A-roll equals subject talking, B-roll equals thing being talked about. Yeah, some people go all in on B-roll and just don't have A-roll. Mike's also jealous of any editing skills. Me too. I really don't have that much. I know what to do. I know how to do what I already do, but that's about it. Outside of what I do for tech and EV videos and vlogs and stuff, I really can't do much. What's your least favorite thing, says Jordan's topic. Anything? Can it be an emotion, or are we just talking nouns? Objects or people, or least favorite thing? Oh, that's bizarrely deep. Doesn't sound like a deep question, but it is. Least favorite thing. The Surface Duo. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why my brain focuses on this, but I want to say radiation. I feel like there's so many situations that are ruined by radiation. Maybe it's just because we were talking about nukes. Nukes kind of suck. That could be low on the list. Least favorite thing. He doesn't like my shoes. Did I say that? I don't remember your shoes. I think you keep missing iUpdate's channel on these searches because sometimes I click on his videos thinking it's your video. Well, sometimes he will directly replicate mine. That has happened too, but we text each other. We acknowledge that it's happened. Have you ever tried editing in a new way and then been like, oh God, no, that won't work? Yeah, not recently. I feel like in most recent history, I've always been trying to find ways of editing in more efficient manners. Not so much editing in a certain way and finding out it doesn't work. More so it's like, I feel like editing is a lot more tolerable if I can put something on in the background while I'm doing it. You know, if I can watch a video as I'm editing, then it doesn't even feel like work. It just feels like I'm chilling, watching YouTube. I just got to click in the right places. That's what a lot of the jump cuts are, is just looking at the dead air and cutting that out. I can have something on in the background. But something like the movie review video is, you got to be listening to what I'm saying to know what pictures to put in. So I was like, okay, I can't really have a video playing while I'm editing this. Otherwise, I got too many audio things overlapping each other. So occasionally I'll have a setup like that where I'm like, oh, maybe I can watch a video while I'm editing this. And then I go, nope, that won't work. So yeah, it's kind of happens. You would not be alive without the sun's radiation. Dang it. Okay, it can't be radiation. Least favorite thing. Cancer? Cancer sucks. What if we just didn't have cancer? What kind of world would we be in without cancer? Probably a better one, right? Illness. Sickness of any kind. Imagine a world where there's just not any disease, you know? I guess we wouldn't have as many sick days at work, would we? But I don't know. I feel like the world would be pretty much great if there was like no way to get sick. Maybe you could still die, but what if you could only die from like, tragic accidents? Like you could get run over by a bus, or a meteorite could hit you, or you could get shot. But outside of that, what if you just didn't have any other disease? Like, what if that was not a thing? Yeah, if in the chat to all our friends and family lost to cancer. It's such a massive problem. I know plenty of people that have been impacted by that. It's a terrible thing. I look forward to the day where hopefully we can cure it. But I don't know. I feel like if there just wasn't any type of bodily sickness, yeah, that would be my least favorite thing, I think. Believe it or not, Daniel, I'm not smoking anything. I know it may sound like that, but my brain does not need drugs to go deep like this. Do you watch much YouTube for entertainment? If so, what? Oh yeah, I watch more YouTube than anything. I watch a lot of the H3 podcasts. I watch a lot of. Well, I wanted to look at my subscriptions, but I need to look at the chat. Can I go on the OnePlus? Backup. Oh, is it the OnePlus that's causing these internet issues? I'm gonna be so mad if that's what it was. Oh no. Your brother almost got run over by a bus? And when he got on the bus, the driver asked him if he was okay, and he was like, yeah, what do you mean? Oh, he's blind. Oh my God. That's terrifying. I'm glad he's okay. No physical illness, only mental illness? Still not ideal. No, illness of any kind. Like, there's no such thing as being sick. I'm not saying this would be the ideal world. I'm just saying it'd be better than it currently is. There was some type of factor in our existence that we could erase. This disease. Just got over with classes. What's going on here? We're basically rebranding the Talos of Talks podcast as kind of like a solo. See, now OBS is acting up. As soon as I pick up the OnePlus, I bet that's what it was. I bet that was it. How would you die then? You would have to die from something like not sickness related. So like you could fall, you could like jump off a cliff and hit the bottom and die. You could get hit by a car at a high speed and die. You could get in a car crash. You could get shot. You could get murdered. I guess you could do everything that doesn't involve a sickness. But outside of that, does aging count as a sickness? I don't know. I feel like people would live a lot longer if they was just like, okay, don't jump off a cliff, don't get in a car crash, and just avoid all those types of things, and you'll be okay. Your muscles get so old that your heart just stops during your sleep. That's probably a good way to go. You just fall asleep one day, wake up in the whatever's next. One time the internet was acting up at my house and I turned off an old Samsung tablet that I have and it was so much better. That's interesting. I turned off the Wi-Fi in the OnePlus and seems okay so far. If it acts up again, then I'll get mad. But this has gotten very dark. Oh yeah, we get dark here. Is the Talks podcast going to be live? Yeah, like this. I mean, this is basically what the random Q&A live streams were. I just realized that I've done like how many live streams now and just called them all random Q&A. Why don't we just well, if we're going to be doing this every week, let's not call it random. Let's just call it the Talks podcast, because I don't really have plans on bringing that back in another format. So I'll be the sole host. You guys will be the guests. We'll talk about things you guys bring up and that kind of thing. I'm going to have nightmares tonight. Thanks, guys. You are welcome. Enjoy your nightmares. No, seriously, don't have nightmares if you can. I died over the annoyance of the Surface Duo's existence. I glitched a bunch. Yeah, I know. I saw the OBS thing freak out. Streaming services kind of suck. Yeah, they do. Ooh. Drew is finally the host of a podcast. I guess I've never been the host before. Oh, okay. See, OBS freaked out for a second there, but the Wi-Fi on this is off. So, okay, it's not the OnePlus. We have ruled that out. very much could be something my wife is doing at work, which I can't ask her to stop because that's her job. So, do you have any YouTube recommendations? I want to look, but I want to see the chat too. Maybe if I'm quick. All right, I'm going to close the chat for a second. Well, I just recommended a lot of space channels. I watch a ton of those. NASA Space Flight. Who else do I What About It is a great channel. I'm watching a lot of space channels. Lab Padre. A lot of these channels relate to work. Are these all my subscriptions? I watch the H3 podcast. I watch Solving the Money Problem. I watch Randy Vasquez. I watch Nick and Sweeney. I watch Marquez Brownlee. I watch Hyperchange. I watch Tobias Lind, who does Giga Berlin videos. Man, I don't have a very interesting subscription feed. SpaceX Centric, that's a good one. Dirty Tesla, that's a good channel. Who else? That's about it. I don't know why. H3 just makes enough stuff that I can't keep up with it. So I guess I'm scrolling through my subscriptions, and that's what like most of it is. Corridor Crew is a pretty cool channel. I like Corridor. Yeah, there's some good ones in there. Red Letter Media, they don't upload very much, but when they do, I love it. They make some good stuff. What if you made an iCloud email so we could FaceTime you and talk about random topics? Well, the only issue with that is people could FaceTime me and text me at like any time, so I don't want that to be a thing. But there are ways we could have people on the show via Discord or StreamYard, and so we'll do that later. Would you recommend Starlink, and are you getting it? If I can get it, I will. For certain demographics, Starlink makes a whole lot of sense, but in others it doesn't. But we've talked about that. Starlink is better for people who don't have access to fiber optics. If you have access to fiber internet, then Starlink isn't really going to make much sense. But anyways, I'm going to get going. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Talks Podcast is back. And probably sometime tomorrow, I'll convert it into a audio format so you can listen to this after it's live on your favorite podcasting apps and Spotify and all that. So appreciate you guys all watching, and hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.